we go for launch.
5.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Anything can happen in the next half hour.
4.
My friend, we cannot keep this a secret any longer.
This whole thing is insane.
3.
Quiet, please. I am analyzing.
Where's the kaboom?
2.
There was supposed to be an earth-shattering kaboom.
1.
Caught up in a strange vortex of energy during a celestial probe, the two astronauts were propelled through the time barrier. They landed 2,000 years after their takeoff on a strange continent that had once been known as Earth. From one of the most successful motion pictures ever made comes an exciting new television series, Planet of the Apes.
Planet of the Apes takes place on Earth, but some 2,000 years from now. There's been some sort of cataclysm that's changed the whole complexity of the planet. We find that the whole world is turned upside down, that when civilization regenerated itself, the apes became the dominant members of society. We're creating a world that never existed, so we have plenty of latitude, both in the behavior of people, the society we're creating, the way it looks. The way we see civilization regenerating itself is with the apes, of course, at the top. The center of government is Ape City, where there are just a few humans who work as clerks and servants. Most of the humans live in comparatively rural communities. There are many special and difficult production problems. Foremost is that of the ape makeup. It takes close to 4 weeks to get an ape made up. First, we have to start with a gooey plaster substance and make a mask of the face. Then when that hardens, it's cast to mold. And on that mold, the facial characteristics of the simians are built. We spend somewhere between 3.5 and 4 hours putting these appliances onto the ape characters. The show is going to have a very strong philosophic base. For the Planet of the Apes is a world regenerating itself from our own civilization, mirroring in a strange way what's both good and bad about our own lives. And our two astronauts are going to find themselves in a world where evolution has gone completely haywire.
Roddy McDowall, Ron Harper, and James Martin star in Planet of the Apes.
Return to the Planet of the Apes.
Greetings, my fellow galactic travelers, and welcome back to Planet 8. This is your Mission Commander Larry speaking to you from our hidden base. Chief Engineer Bob is here by my side as always in the command center, and circling Planet 8 in our orbital spy satellite is Reconnaissance Officer Karen.
And on this episode of Planet 8, we're joined once again with friend of the show, Lord Blood-Rah. Welcome, Lord Blood-Rah, to our discussion of Planet of the Apes on TV. We're going to take a deep dive into not just the animated series, but also the live action series. Both of these played out in the 70s. who'd like to take a stab at the live action, just giving an introduction to our listeners? Don't be shy.
Anyone?
Well,
go for
Walker.
it.
Basically,
what had happened was
Bob.
Oh,
there we go. Basically, what had happened was Planet of the Apes, the original movie, showed on TV and got huge ratings. So they figured, well, let's do a TV series. And they got pretty ambitious putting it together, but I think it kind of, due to budgetary reasons, didn't quite live up to the original ideas. And once it got rolling, their biggest audience was 11 and under. So, they kind of went into it thinking, political allegory and all this that would appeal to the adults, but it was the kids that liked it, and it kind of reflected in later episodes when it had to become more action oriented than it was telling allegories and politically tuned things. But I watched it when it was originally on. I liked it. It definitely has, looking back, it definitely has that 70s vibe. Like I was saying before the show, it's kind of like Starsky and Hutch with apes. And that was interesting. So, does it hold up today? I mean, it was entertaining when I rewatched it, so I would think so. But I think the rigors, also, I guess the rigors of TV filming. They had so many gorillas in that thing, and so many people in makeup, and they were shooting on Malibu Ranch down in LA, part of Universal, and they said, God, every day it was like 110 degrees, and people were in ape makeup and the heavy armor and everything else, and they were just dropping like flies. And in fact, they mentioned that a couple people, mostly stunt guys, at one point, just in the middle of everything, just started ripping off the makeup and pulling off the arm. It's just like too damn hot. They couldn't do it, and just walked off the set. So, it was an interesting TV show, but I know they had much grander plans going into it.
Oh, yeah. And it's interesting you mentioned that the audience was primarily 11 and under, because I noticed as it went on, Roddy McDowall's performance as Galen got more cutesy and comic.
More humorous,
Yeah, it's almost like the Dr. Smith was deadly serious, right? Getting lost in space. And he never went that far off the deep end, but he was deadly serious at the beginning of Lost in Space, and then became this comic character.
So,
and then
you're saying that Galen was the Dr. Smith of Planet of the Apes?
No, I'm saying that his performance became more cute and comedic, a little more child friendly, and then a serious performance as a chimpanzee, separate from Cornelius and Caesar. And also, you mentioned like all the people in makeup. Rewatching the series, one of the things that I noticed was there were a lot of humans. There were more humans than there were apes. Like even in the episode
I think that
where
was probably out of necessity.
Oh, I'm sure it was. Yeah. Even in the episode where Verdon gets shot, and they take him to what they say is the best hospital in their world, it's all humans. There's two doctors, two ape doctors, and they're all humans. You don't see any ape patients. You don't.
Yeah.
It's all humans running it. So I found that strange, and I found the world building that they did within the series kind of patchwork and strange.
Well, I think the thing that got to me was the sameness of the episodes. Pretty much they go into like a village or a place. There's some sort of issue. Typically, one of them might be held hostage. Then they have to resolve the issue and rescue their friend, and then they have to take off again. And the formula was just extreme. Even as a kid, I didn't really enjoy this show that much, even though I was like bonkers for Planet of the Apes. And sort of the same thing. I know we're going to talk about the animated show. I think had very like, I drew a line around stuff, and it was like, this is Planet of the Apes, this is not Planet of the Apes, right? And so watching this show, I was kind of like, well, this really does not measure up to my standards for Planet of the Apes, for a lot of reasons. But if you go back and kind of look at, like, sort of like what Bob was saying, the intentions that they originally had sounded good, because originally I think there was more of a through line for the series. Like, originally the two astronauts were going to be there looking for Taylor, so they were actually connecting it to the original Planet of the Apes. And they had more of an intention of it being a drama and being, something more science fiction-y. But then when they brought in the people who took it over, let's see, Herb Hirschman was one of the producers, and decided that they didn't want to do science fiction. They wanted to attract a family audience, and they wanted to be more like the Waltons. Planet of the Apes, like the Waltons.
Good night,
okay?
Galen boy.
So yeah, he said that they wanted to attract families. We're seeking honest stories that make comments on our times. We're not writing exotic tales of science fiction. These will be real stories that make valid statements on today's society. It's like, that's not what I'm looking for in class.
That wasn't what the under 11 age group was looking for either. So
yeah.
And has this person never heard of Star Trek?
I mean,
you can do both.
Right.
That's the tactics of television. It's like, what's popular at the time? Wagon Train. Oh, let's do Wagon Train to the Stars.
Right.
What's popular in the 70s? The Waltons. Let's do a show about the Waltons with apes.
You go back and look at Serling's treatment, and he says, we could be as wildly imaginative as civilization like Star Trek's Enterprise never encountered could be right over the hill. Right? Wouldn't that be great? You could really explore the whole world of Planet of the Apes. What else is out there? What have we not encountered? I do think a lot of it was probably budget based, right?
Mhm.
So they just kind of kept meandering around the same place over and over. But you'd think in the hands of more talented writers, we probably could have gotten some more.
Well, they never give Rod any credit. I mean, he wrote a treatment for the original film and they threw most of it out. And then he wrote a treatment for the TV series. They threw most of that out. It's like, he had two very successful TV shows between Twilight Zone and Night Gallery. You might want to listen to the guy.
And was a groundbreaking writer. Yep. Aside from both of those. Yeah. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You'd mentioned Starsky and Hutch, Bob. I had more of an Incredible Hulk vibe to it, where Dave Banner was just going from city to city,
perfect
fishermen, put a glider to flight, battling the ape version of the KKK.
Right.
I mean, it was like
right. Every week, some new problem.
I know Ron Harper, who was one of the stars of the show, he basically summed it up with, well, every episode, one of the three of us gets captured and the other two have to go and save them.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Premise of the whole thing.
And you mentioned the episode with the ape KKK. That was the deception.
Yeah.
And in that's one of my favorite episodes, that and the trap.
Mm-hmm.
Those are two of my favorite episodes. In the deception, they come across this blind chimpanzee female whose father was killed, she's told, by humans.
Yeah.
Right.
And she falls in love, because she can't see, she falls in love with Burke.
Now she hates humans because
she hates humans.
She's been told. I mean, just despises them.
Right. But she falls in love with Burke just by talking to him, thinking that he is a chimpanzee.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that this episode has the best acting scene for Roddy McDowall in the series, where he talks to the girl and the girl says, I think I'm in love with, I can't remember the name of his ape character.
Mhm.
I think I'm in love with him. And the look of shock, and he sits down and he's trying just by his voice to be gentle with her, but he's crying. He's crying while he's doing it because he feels for her, and the entire situation he knows is just completely untenable. Then he confronts Burke and he's angry with him. What did you do? What did you say to her? How dare you make her fall in love with you? I think that's some of the best acting he's done in the series.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think that was
I
great.
agree with you.
Yeah, that was very
Yeah,
good.
if we maybe had some more shows like that where it was a little more complicated, a
Right.
little more, we saw a little more emotion or complexity from the characters, that would have been nice.
Well, there was also that one episode, I can't remember what the title was, but where basically it's an interrogation for the whole thing. In fact,
I think it's
called The Interrogation.
Beverly Garland is playing the ape that's doing the interrogating.
Yeah.
And it's like, God. Going into it, I'm like, well, I just want to watch this to see Beverly Garland play an ape. But she was really good. You know, just the fact that she keeps interrogating him, he won't give her anything, and she's getting upset. And she's trying to do it via a book, a human book on how to interrogate, you know, and it's like, well, it says here I need to do that, you know, this and that.
Mm-hmm.
But that
a pretty chilling episode.
That episode was really good.
Yeah. It started off really well. I feel like the ending was kind of a letdown. They could have, and of course there's no repercussions for him. It's like nothing happened to him. That the interrogation and torture, it's like whatever. It doesn't.
Yeah, they were going pretty far for a TV show as far as the interrogation went. They had him on that one table spinning him around until he was like ready to pass out, and then she'd ask questions and he wouldn't answer and spin him around some more. But
yeah, that was.
Yeah. And it's interesting that the two human characters, I think initially were conceived that Verdon would be the rugged leading man hero type, and Burke, who was originally called Kovac, was supposed to be more of the comic relief. He was not heroic, you know, he was supposed to be younger and less heroic and kind of following Verdon's lead. But because of who they cast, they said it was like, well, you know, then he became sort of hero number two, and there wasn't as much distinction between the two of them. And reading that, I was thinking, yeah, that might have been a much better situation if you'd had those two characters be really different like that, you know, really had one of them be much more like, hey man, you go do it, I'm going to hang out here, or, you know, made them more different.
Give them some conflict.
The thing that really got me about the series too was they're beating up guerrilla soldiers left and right.
Yes.
It's like, have you ever tried to fight a gorilla?
Always a problem with the movies too.
It ain't going to be that easy.
That you can knock a gorilla out with a punch. It's like,
well, they're evolved gorillas, so, you know, they're not maybe 400 pounds, and
that's
you know, maybe they're not quite as strong, but yeah, I would assume they're still stronger than a normal human.
Lesser,
still, yeah.
Their favorite move, which I guess was their equivalent of the Kurt double kick, was they would, like, you know, grab the armor, roll on their back with their foot in their stomach, and flip them over.
Right.
That was like, I did that in a ton of episodes.
That somehow incapacitated the gorilla soldier. Yeah.
Right. One of the things Lieutenant Jasmine picked up on is whenever they take their shirts off to work in the field or go swimming, these men were ripped, according to her.
Ripped?
I guess they were. Oh, sorry.
They were in very good shape for the 70s.
That's why they could take on those gorillas.
I guess
you notice, though,
maybe when the gorillas took over, they just got lazy and didn't work out.
That's probably true. There's not that much punching going on in general, but I think that might have been something that, like, you don't see that in cartoons of the 70s either, and so I think that was sort of like
depends on which ones.
Away from, like, you know, showing kids a lot of fisticuffs in general.
Yeah, you know, that's true. And one of the things I noticed too is, you know, we talked about changing the format of the show. Even before it, like, went into production, it takes a while for them to make action figures, as we know from Star Wars. They had no intention to make Star Wars action figures, and then huge success, and let's make toys. And they gave us that Christmas cardboard promising us figures in months.
Right.
Planet of the Apes Mego toys were ready to go. I wanted that clubhouse so badly.
I had it.
You had it?
I had it.
Oh,
I
so
had the
jealous.
Burke and Galen figures. I had all this.
Oh man!
I made my own figures. The original Batman Mego figure had the cowl you could take off, and I had one of those. I could kick myself to this day. I made that into a tailor.
Oh,
like I made the little tie-on clothing and stuff like that, and made him into a tailor instead of leaving it like the original Batman. And I could have sold it for a little bit of money.
At the time, it made sense.
At the time, it made sense. That's right. In the TV series, one of the things that bugged me, you were talking about it not really having a through line.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that really drove me nuts were the logical inconsistencies within the show. Because you look at that show, there's no way it can be part of the original movie timeline. There's no way. Because the first thing you see and hear, first episode, is a dog. Very first thing you see and hear is a chimpanzee child playing with a dog. So that doesn't work. And then in the first, I don't know if we need to say it, but this show starts out the way the first two Planet of the Apes films starts. Astronauts crash land on this planet, later find out that it's Earth, and hilarity ensues. But they're found by a human who shows them a book that he found. Now in the book, I took notes. The book shows a city from 2503. They landed in 3085. And they took off in 1980. So the ape uprising could not have taken place for 500 years after they launched, at least, which means that as of where they landed, apes took over 500 years ago. So it seems like pretty rapid change for 500 years.
Right.
And also there's the episode where they find a bit of, first of all, go back to my other favorite episode, The Trap, where General Urko and Burke are trapped in a BART station, an underground BART station in San Francisco. They've got to work to get out. And Burke is showing Urko all of these things on these posters, like a meal and a pill and a total body scan that can somehow heal you or something like that. How does he know about that? That stuff is from 500 years in the future for him, right? And that city didn't look like it was 500 years in the future.
Well, it says it right there on the poster, right?
It says it in the poster.
Just read the poster. It says it right there.
Why did
What is the book? There's a book from the year 2500 or later. Really, we're going to still have books? I mean, we barely have books now. I don't know.
There's that too.
Yeah.
Well, nobody knew back then what 2025 would look like.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, we should be a lot more advanced than we are now.
It doesn't fit perfectly in the timeline. I mean, I think Planet of the Apes is the sci-fi series that has maybe the most timeline inconsistencies, because you try to even the first film and Beneath don't mesh, because the first film, they look at the chronometer and it's like, what is it, 3978, and then Brent's is like 3955 or something.
Right.
And it's like, so every time he's trying to rationalize all these things, it's like you either have to say they're alternate timelines or somebody screwed up. It's
Then again, there's people like me who just go with it.
Yeah, this is
So I wanted to go back.
I wish I could do that.
I want to go back and touch on what Lord Blood-Rah was saying about the dog, because for those who don't know, the whole original idea was that dogs had died out and humans were basically adopting apes as their pets, later slaves, etc. So yeah, there should be no dogs, period.
No.
Yeah.
Dogs and cats were wiped out. We get a statue in Conquest to the dogs and cats.
That's right.
So, yeah, it doesn't make any sense. So then you think, well, are we in an alternative timeline?
Of course we are.
The whole thing about the TV show and the crash of the rocket ship, they were the only ones that couldn't hit the water. In Planet of the Apes and the cartoon, everywhere else, Brent, everybody, they all hit the water except for these guys.
It had to be a soft landing.
Hit the land.
Or else it would have been. No.
They're
Wait a minute.
Russians.
Brent crashed in the desert.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's
Remember?
right. Okay.
Yeah, Brent crashed in the desert.
I take it back.
So they're 1 for 3.
One of the things that struck me is it was big enough of a crash that one of the astronauts, one of the 3, died.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Even though he was buckled in. So did his buckle break? I don't know.
Heart
Let
attack.
that be a lesson that if you're ever crashing in a spaceship, hit the water.
Look for the water.
Right.
If you have any power left.
Well, actually, that ship, the Liberty, was on computer control. I don't know about the other 2. I don't know about, but we know for sure it was computer controlled when it came down.
Right. Yeah, no, that's a good point.
Just saying.
Yeah.
And it was at least a different design than the one that Verdon and Burke had, because they had the little 3-seater, whereas Taylor's ship, they had the
sleeping units.
Sleep units that worked really well, at least 75% of the time.
Yes.
Except when crashing.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I really there's certain episodes that I enjoyed. Most say I still feel a lot like my little Karen did, in that I wish there was so much more to this show. Some of these episodes, I agree, the trap was a really good episode, and then there's others where maybe I enjoy the episode or part of the episode. There was the legacy where they discover the computer. I think they're in Oakland.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they have like the Landru projection on the wall, and he's telling them, we've made like these caches of technology, and it's like, God, they could have done so much with that, right? They could have said, oh, well, let's discover these, and maybe it'll help us, find another spaceship or whatever. But they never follow up on it.
Yeah, that episode should have set them a quest. Okay, we find all of these, information centers, and maybe we can get off this planet. Yeah, right.
I mean, they didn't have to have like a hard continuity, because I know that back then they wanted people to be able to watch shows in any order, but it was like maybe every 4th episode it would be like, hey, we found another whatever, or they could be on their way to it. Right. I guess Serling had set a goal that they would hear a rumor of a city where apes and men coexisted, and that Taylor had was on his way there, and so they were trying to follow him to this city. And that would have been interesting if they'd kept the whole Taylor thing, but I don't know how they would have done that if the humans were not speaking and were primitive and everything.
See, it's interesting too that everything took place in New York, except the TV show took place in San Francisco, Oakland, Bay Area.
Right.
And Dr. Zaius, man, he gets around.
That is interesting that they decided to like reuse the name of Zaius. They didn't bring Cornelius or Zira into it.
Yeah, they renamed it.
So for Ursus.
Well, like I said, somehow Dr. Zaius got from New York to San Francisco.
What did you guys think of this Zaius?
Well, let me just say, I'm such a simple viewer. I saw a shark in one episode, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, it's a shark. What's going to happen? Walker brought to my attention that was filmed before Jaws, so that was interesting to me.
Oh,
yeah, okay. That's good.
Yeah, but Dr. Zaius.
Yeah, wrestling sharks.
No, it was an interesting interpretation of Zaius, essentially kind of the same Zaius, the guardian of the horrible truth and trying to keep civilization going.
Trying to keep the knowledge away from.
Keep the guardian of the sacred knowledge. Yeah, I met Coleman Barks, who played Zaius in the TV series. Coleman Barks, that's the name, right?
Yeah.
It's Booth.
Coleman Booth. Yeah. That's it. Booth Coleman.
Yeah, here you go.
That's it.
If we keep going, we'll get to it eventually.
Did you really meet him?
Yeah, I did research. I met him at Monsterpalooza some years ago. I met him and the guy who played Verdon, who was a sweetheart, and a guy who played one of the gorillas, who was very funny. But anyway, I was talking to Booth Coleman, and I said to him, I always found that character specifically interesting because he's not necessarily a bad guy. He thinks he's doing the right thing. From his point of view, he is doing the right thing. He's just trying to maintain his civilization. And he looked up at me with this sigh and said, all I did was say the lines that were on the script. And I was like, thank you for your time. You obviously don't want to be here.
Wow. Did you notice the shark episode, though?
See, that was like a friend of mine used to have lunch every month with Dr. Smith. And
wow.
Yeah. So Jonathan, basically, when he would go to conventions and someone would ask him, in episode 3 of season 2, when you did this and that. And if he didn't remember it, he'd just go, his stock line was, yes, that was fun.
That's the way you do it. That's the way you do it.
But he said Jonathan Harris basically really spoke like Dr. Smith. It wasn't an act, I tell you. But yeah, no, that was his thing. So I'm sure when you met the guy, he was just like, I just said my lines.
Yeah. Well, when I approached him, he had this look like he didn't want to be here. And so I thought, no,
yeah.
This is Dr. Zaius,
I'm sure he was happy to take everyone's money, but
yeah. Oh yeah. Well, maybe that was another thing too, is I didn't buy a photo. So
well.
You get a different answer with money.
One guest that actually played into things was Mitch Pileggi, who played Skinner on X-Files.
Mm-hmm.
And I met him at a Monsterpalooza one time. And this was after, I guess, the last series where I guess Skinner was killed at the end. And it's like, so I asked him, I go, so are you really dead? He's like, well, we'll have to see in the next series if there is one.
Yeah.
But he'd ask himself, he would play into it and play along. But yeah, no, getting back to Apes, another episode I enjoyed was actually the one with the horse race.
Well, hold on, before we get the shark, at the end of that episode, I got a kick out of them frolicking and running on the seashore, and the chimp going, woo, 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 woo.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, he did not like the water. He didn't want to go in the water at all.
Yeah, no.
And that plays into another episode later in the series where they've got him on the raft and they're pushing him and he's just like panicking because he's out in the middle of the ocean or whatever.
Yeah.
But no, I enjoyed the horse race mainly because they entered it to help this farmer and his son.
Mm-hmm.
And the farmer, this guy's helping him, and then he gets paranoid and approaches the apes and double crosses him. But then when it comes time for the double cross, he goes back and doesn't do it. So he's like screwing everything up. It's like, okay, they're doing all this stuff to help his son, and yet he's going back and forth and wishy-washy and, doesn't follow through with any of the things he was trying to do.
That was a convoluted episode.
One of the things that struck me in most, if not all, the episodes was the apes that they encountered had a natural, well, I shouldn't say natural, they had a prejudice towards humans. And, they can't be trusted or they were hated or whatever. And especially what comes to mind is the farming episode. And they were saying, get the first grain or corn and plant it higher and plant it at this direction. And, at the end of the episode, they had a better appreciation and understanding that humans were not these like evil, untrustworthy creatures that they had been told they were. And so that was kind of cool to me. I don't know if it was intentional or if it's just me reading into something that was or wasn't there, but
it's like the humans' placement in this society almost changed episode to episode.
Yeah.
Were they just absolute vermin that needed to be stamped out, or were they valued slave labor? Because at one point, in the one with the shark, right?
Yeah.
They approach the fishing community and say they recently left a farm and they had papers that they were free to go find work on their own.
Right.
It's like, really? Would they be able to do that if they were just useless animals? That is a little bit weird. There's an episode, the one with not Haley Joel Osment, but
Jackie Earl
Haley. I always get those two confused.
One of those guys with
three name thing. But there's at the end of the episode, the woman involved in that goes to her brother's farm. So the human owns a farm? How does that work? I can see a human being a worker on a farm, but the human owns a farm? That doesn't make it. The humans, their status.
Yeah.
They never figured it out quite. It's almost like this series never had a Bible.
Yeah.
It never had an overarching structure to say, okay, the humans can do this, they can't do that, they're forbidden by law to do this, and that kind of thing.
That's a good point. There was one
the
episode.
other question is, within the timeline of the films, where does this take place?
It doesn't.
Yeah, I don't think
it doesn't. It's an other universe.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I don't know.
Yeah, they claimed it, I think, in some interviews. Well, it takes place between battle and the original Planet of the Apes, but as we discussed earlier, it already violates that because of the dogs. And
well, I mean, it had to at least take place before Escape, right? Because the end of Beneath, they blew up the whole planet. So if it was the same continuity, it would have to actually take place probably between Planet of the Apes and Beneath.
Makes sense to me.
Well,
even though it was happening a continent away, if you blow up the planet, then they're both.
So you're thinking there could be different conditions on the West Coast than on the East Coast.
Yeah, but still within the movie timeline, the apes took over in 1980 something. The events of conquest of the Planet of the Apes.
Oh yeah,
80 something. My hat keeps disappearing. 1980 something. Whereas opposed to in the series, human civilization is humming along until 25 something.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
No, it's a different universe, totally different universe.
Good question though.
And the animated universe is a totally different universe again.
Did you guys notice that Dr. Corby from Star Trek was in an episode? His daughter.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's
I was like
a lot of Star Trek cameos or appearances in these episodes.
And it took me a minute. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, where he thinks her blood is evil and cursed.
Yeah. Right. Wouldn't it have been great to see like Leonard Nimoy as an ape or James Doohan as an ape?
That would have been fun.
That would have been wonderful.
Some people have a good facial structure for the appliances and other people don't, because there's certain people you see and like their noses are super long, like their snouts are really long. They look more like a baboon than a chimpanzee.
Yeah. Doohan would have been good. He had that
even looking at Roddy McDowall's makeup from episode to episode. There's a couple where you can see the seams between his mask and the hair, and you can see seams, under here. And I mean, it greatly varied between episodes. And it's like, okay, was it really hot that day and it started to separate, or was somebody being real lazy when they put it on, or
Well, it looked like he was wearing like gloves also. If you look at his
he did.
Yeah.
And his fingers, it was just gloves with hair on it.
But we couldn't see it back then with our TVs.
Right. Well, and did you notice that in some long shots, and medium shots, that is not Roddy McDowall. It flat out isn't. And I was surprised. As a matter of fact, in The Trap, there are 2 dialogue scenes in medium shot that it is not Roddy McDowall.
Oh, wow.
There's one where he yells, "Run." It's not him, not his voice. And then something else where he actually has a line. Where I just went, what the hell chimpanzee is that? That's not Galen. Who is that? No, there are a few scenes where Roddy McDowall was busy, or it was like, look, you can handle the stand-in.
It's 110.
Well, I heard that there were days where they shot like 14 to 18 hours.
Whoa.
And Roddy McDowall could only stay in the makeup about 12.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there were scenes between hour 12 and hour 18 where he'd already gone home or he'd already gone back to the trailer, got his makeup off, and they had to like throw somebody out there to fill in. But
sure. Yeah.
Another
thing, like for the...
Huh? I know Mandalorian, they do that too.
Yeah.
Well, he's not even there most of the time.
Right. Yeah. And another, like, for the budget, yeah, the makeup did generally really suffer. But from what I understand, like, there's a lot of to make the makeup look realistic, there's a lot of shading and makeup over the appliances that has to be done. To save money on all of the outdoor shots, they didn't do any of the shading.
Oh.
They just relied on natural shadowing to take care of that. And you can tell. There's more of a blank, kind of a blank uniform skin tone to it that doesn't look as realistic as when they really went all out.
Then again, there are episodes where you get like a close-up of Roddy McDowall and you look at it like, that's some excellent makeup right there. You know,
yes.
Some of the best in the
that's true.
TV show. So,
especially the first couple of episodes. Yeah.
I think they benefited too because they had access to costumes and props and things from the film. I mean, like the Urko had Ursus's helmet. I mean, that helmet is super cool, right? And then in different scenes, I would see things and I would be like, oh, that's definitely from, one of the movies. There would just be different things in the ape houses or whatever. So they were able to capitalize on a lot of those things that they brought over from the films.
Well, plus, I mean, when you have so many gorillas in a scene, some are more towards the background. They just have masks on.
Oh, yeah.
Versus the ones that are like apes and they're closer to the camera and they've got the full makeup, or they have dialogue or what have you. But
yeah, I mean, the gorillas really dominated the TV show. You would see a few chimps, hardly any orangs. I mean, you'd see a few orangutans, but
well, they would just be on the council or when they had to go,
Yeah, it was nice to see. We got the council once, maybe twice. That was kind of cool to see.
Or Zayas would come out once in a while and talk to,
And I think every shot you saw of Zayas on a horse was not him. It was somebody in a horrible mask.
Yes.
With the hair all frizzed out and
Bouncing
everything. It's like, it's terrible.
Now we can't neglect Mark Leonard.
No. He was great. Giving it everything. Yeah.
I thought he was kind of over the top, but maybe that's what the role called for.
Well, I think you kind of have to act whenever you're like in makeup or a suit or whatever, you have to kind of overact to project through it.
Well, and I think his character was just dumb authority, ignorant authority. That's all he was.
Yeah.
As just relentless, but just idiotic authority, as opposed to some people under him, like in the Deception, there's a gorilla, kind of sheriff, I guess, who shows a lot of integrity.
Yeah.
At the end, by arresting the dragoons, letting the human go, and in the trap as well. One of the gorilla guards said, "I gave my once they're rescued out of the underground station. I gave my word. I cannot kill them now."
Yeah.
and he lets them go, and then kind of regrets it when he sees the poster of the gorilla in the zoo. But it seems like a lot of people under his command have a lot more integrity. But then again, well, no, that's not true. Urko isn't privy to Zeus's secrets. I don't think. I don't think he knows.
No, I think if there was anyone that Zeus would want to keep the secrets from, it would be Urko.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's sort of like Aldo is definitely the dumbest gorilla general we got. Then Urko is a little bit above. And then Ursus is much more refined. He knows what he's up to.
That's right. That's right. And, we talk about the secrets that Zeus is keeping. And yet, in just a bookcase in his office, he's got these human books just sitting there.
Right.
Anybody can see him. He's got the little thing of, that was a missed opportunity. In, I forgot which episode it was, but it was the first one, where they've got those little hand grenades.
Yeah.
Just sitting there.
Just sitting there, but he said that they were captured from a human who was trying to sneak into the city. Okay, is there a technologically advanced human civilization out there that was coming in to attack the city with these hand grenades? What's that about? Where did he come from? Is there somebody out there plotting to, destroy ape civilization? Or was this kind of a reconnaissance?
Or was it like another set of astronauts? Maybe they were just trying to kind of hint at Taylor or Brent or someone.
Well, they did say that they, like 10 years before, there had been astronauts.
Yeah,
astronauts.
Right.
That had shown up, which is why they were so freaked out about Burden and Burke.
Right.
But yeah, there's so many things. That's the thing. The biggest thing about this show is like the lost opportunities, I think. That, if you'd brought in some competent sci-fi writers, what could they have done with it? Throw David Gerald and DC Fontana on this show, and boy, I bet we would have got some cool stories out of them.
Oh yeah.
Well, see, the interesting thing with the series though is like there really is, except for when they go back to the ship and they get that little chip or whatever.
Yeah.
There's nothing science fiction about any of it.
Right.
It's just there happens to be apes,
It's the fugitives,
but that's the only kind of science fiction element there is. The whole
right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like you said, it's the Incredible Hulk with 3 characters on the run.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Helping people in each village or city.
Helping people as they go. Yes. that was something else I noticed about 4 or 5 episodes in is they would save themselves a lot of trouble if they would just shut up. Just don't mention. Well, back, in my time, where I'm from, we did this, and I can remember to shut up. Don't talk about that. Just to get to safety. Shut up.
What do you mean your time? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I also got a kick that in every village they changed their names.
Yes.
What's your name?
And some they didn't.
Yeah, and some they didn't. It was like hit and miss.
Yeah. It's like, what are you doing?
It was I had fun rewatching it.
I did too.
It took me a minute to ramp up. Once we got to the probably 3rd or 4th episode, probably the shark episode, then I was like, woo,
shark.
More sharks. I also got a kick out of the hang glider where he's in there, you hear having a ball as a chimpanzee. But sadly it was not renewed for a 2nd season, so
I had read that there was plans to maybe do a 3-episode 2nd season just to wrap it up. And then CBS just said no. Supposedly William Paley, who was like one of the owners of CBS, he didn't even want it on the station or on the network to begin with.
Wow.
So yeah, he wasn't going to wrapping it up or extending it at all. He's just like,
well,
dead and buried.
Instead of a 2nd season, we got more confusion. we got the animated Planet of the
We
Apes.
go to we move on to Saturday morning.
We move on to Saturday mornings, and what part of the continent did that series take place?
Nowhere, none. Who knows? I don't know. It could have been in Europe. I don't know.
It could have been because we go to the Himalayas at one point in a hot air balloon.
Yeah.
Although,
no, one point
they back a character who was supposed to be Brent.
Right.
Instead of John Brent, it was like Ron Brent or something.
Ron.
It was supposed to be Brent.
Now they do go.
And they had
the
Nova
third episode. The third episode, they go down into the subway, and I thought it was the New York Public Library.
New York.
Ostensibly, they're on the East Coast.
So they were able in one
had
episode to
gotten back
balloon
to the East Coast somehow.
Yeah, to balloon from New York to the Himalayas.
Well, a lot of things shifted, and there was cataclysmic stuff happening.
Continents.
I have to say, so when I was a kid, again, I had a lot of, structures in my mind about what is what and what couldn't be what. When this show came on, I tuned it in, and I saw that there were cars on the Planet of the Apes and other, mechanical things and stuff. I said, this is wrong. This is not real Planet of the Apes. I watched maybe a couple episodes and I was like, I'm out. This is not, canon. It's not right. And I stopped watching it. And I have to say,
they had TV and news reporters and everything.
They had too much. It was too much for me as a child. I said, this is not my Planet of the Apes and I don't want it. But then as an adult now, watching this for the podcast, I enjoyed the hell out of this series because it was so insane. It was so completely demented. It was like Beneath the Planet of the Apes on steroids. And I love Beneath the Planet of the Apes. So I really got a kick out of this show.
Yeah. Now, in the novelization, didn't they have like cars and shovels?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
That's why
novel,
I kind of got excited. I kind of got excited because I had read the novel before the animated series, and I was like, oh, okay, maybe they're going back to the original series in some way, and the original novel in some way, and not really. In that they had technology, yes, but.
Well, I know Doug Waldie was one of the creators of the TV show. He was, of course, the creator of Johnny Quest, as well as doing designs and things for the Hanna-Barbera Godzilla cartoon and Thundar the Barbarian and all that. And I got to say, the really limited animation in the show, that's really kind of what pushed me into Japanese animation at the time. Because I was getting sick of all the limited animation and stuff. And it's like, just go back to that era and you can compare like the animation in Return to the Planet of the Apes to Battle of the Planets or Star Blazers or whatever. It's like night and day, total ends of the spectrum. But I gotta say though, I mean, the designs by Doug Wildey were cool. The opening credits were pretty intense for a Saturday morning cartoon. Yeah, you had the scarecrows of the upside down, crucified humans, and the ape fist that comes down, and it was pretty intense.
And the backgrounds.
Yeah, the backgrounds.
Backgrounds were.
But if they carried that kind of thing over into the actual episodes themselves, I probably would have kept my attention more.
Yeah,
but I did enjoy
Knight yelling at you.
But just the limited animation really gets to me, bugs me.
Well,
to the Planet of the Apes.
But they did say that Doug Wildey had only seen Planet of the Apes and Beneath. He never saw any of the others. So that's where he based on. Because this one has the underdwellers.
Yes.
And it has
really the mutants.
So it has the mutants, it has the humans, it has the apes. And so it's definitely influenced by the first two, plus the novel with all the extra technology.
Right.
Yeah. Laser eyes really struck me like, whoa.
Yeah. It's like,
and his lasers can hurt people or transport people like a transporter. I was like, oh, let alone the huge Himalayan ape. That was a shark.
Tiger.
For me,
Tigers.
I was
So
like, whoa.
you get like a Yeti. You
Yes.
get like a flying dinosaur monster. You get a
Right.
sea serpent. I mean, it's
And they
sky's the
had
Flying
limit.
sea snake or something.
they
Right.
had the Skyway in the Himalayas, like at Disneyland, like there was a ski chalet. I was like, whoa,
It was wild.
Maybe it
this is
wasn't the
amazing.
Himalayas. Maybe it was like a deserted ski resort, and it, an escaped mutated ape, giant ape.
Maybe it was intense. And what struck me too, the balloon crashes into the snow, and what was the blonde guy's name? Blue Eyes. He has a shirt and pants on, and he's trudging through the snow. And I'm like, do they not have frostbite on the planet of the Apes?
They were both bundled up when they left in the balloon. So did he throw that over as part of the balance?
And I'm thinking to myself, I just pulled a Steve. Let me let that go. Let me just, Karen's brother Steve, will be watching the movie. Oh, well, pressures in the center of the earth would crush the vessel. And like, Steve, will you shut up? But
one of the things that really bugged me about the animated series was having ape news on the Ape Network. William Ape Spear,
the Ape Father,
author,
the Ape Father. There was a country western song playing in that pickup truck too.
Oh yeah,
it was like
that was all like Flintstone stuff.
Yeah, it was Fred's voice was the voice of.
That's right.
That was killing me every time Urko speak. I was just like, oh God, it's Fred Flintstone.
And I'm
Fred
so
Flintstone
thankful.
is hunting them down.
Yeah, I'm so thankful it was, soldier, lieutenant, and he didn't say Bonnie.
Go after the humanoids, and it was humanoids.
Humanoids, yeah.
Why?
Don't know.
And even the humans would call the humanoids. Let's build the Pueblo. The humanoids are working really fast. I'm like,
but about this, it's like, yes, the animation sucked. There's weird stuff that didn't make any sense, but like there was a real story here. Like the astronauts, crash land as they do. And then they've got to figure out what's going on. Then they figure it out. And then they decide to have a purpose, right? So we're going to help the humanoids. We're going to move them to this valley where they can be safe from the apes, right? So this is their through line, right? It doesn't matter. You can watch them in different order. Who cares? But, they actually, for the little kids sitting there with their cereal and everything, gave them a story through all the episodes. Like, we're going to move the humanoids to a valley, and we're going to build a fortress, and you know what, we have to go help the underdwellers because their thing is threatened by a volcano. Okay, but we got to get back to the humanoid. There was always a real story there that you could point to and say like, oh yeah, they're doing things. They're not just wandering aimlessly around.
Yeah, but see, it's like they had that book, A Day at the Zoo or whatever, and
right. Yeah.
And Bill and Cornelius basically hid it with the apes, the ice apes in the Himalayas.
Right.
And then in the last episode, it's like, okay, let's go. We got to go back and get that book now. So there was like little things. It wasn't like a hard story through the 13, 14 episodes, but
and
there's
the airplane.
subplots.
Yeah. The
airplane kept coming up too.
Right.
Yeah.
That book really ties in too. It's interesting. So you've got A Day at the Zoo with the zoo book. And you think about in the live action we just talked about, the thing that freaked Urko out in the trap was a poster that showed a gorilla in the zoo, San Francisco Zoo, right? And then when you go on to Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, when apes go into the base, they find a book in the nursery that's A Day at the Zoo with apes in a zoo. So it's kind of interesting how that's kind of been a thing in Planet of the Apes. This apes in the zoo book or picture. Anyway, it just struck me as interesting.
And again, this one, there's no way to place it in the classic movie timeline. I mean, they find Brant. How could this have possibly happened with Brant? Because shortly after Brant comes, the world is destroyed in the movies. And
let's not forget Nova.
And Nova, yeah.
Nova
it takes place in this little sliver of time between when Brent crashed and he and Taylor destroy the planet.
Yeah.
Except he's been there 20 years.
Cartoon kind of slips into.
And Brent appears in like 2 episodes, and then he's never mentioned again.
Yeah.
And
he's got a pretty predominant role in those couple episodes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, then never mentioned again. Very strange.
It's funny though, in this series they decided, unlike the live action one, it's like we're bringing everybody back. Although oddly, the gorilla general is Urko and not Ursus.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But we have Zaius, Cornelius, Zira, Nova, Brent. I was like, okay then,
Well, like I say, Doug Wildey, he developed it, and he'd only seen the first 2 movies. I'm sure they probably showed him the TV series or something where he got Urko from, but so most of the characters he brought back were from the first 2 movies.
Interesting.
Another thing that
I guess they didn't show him the ending of the second movie, or maybe he fell asleep before the end. I figure it just continues, but
the voice acting is pretty terrible.
Very monotone.
I mean, yeah, very monotone. That was one thing that hit me. I guess I expect much better voice acting now because modern shows and animated movies and stuff, you have some really good voice actors. But this would be, let's go get the laser from the ship. But we can't. The ship is at the bottom of the lake. That's okay. We can go down and get it. It's just like, oh my God.
Well, I mean, even, go back to cartoons of the time. I mean, there were still some good cartoon voice actors back then. I mean.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
But this particular cartoon.
Look at all
great.
Look at all the Hanna-Barbera superhero shows.
Oh, no, they were good.
Oh, yeah.
Herculoids.
I did enjoy Krator, the leader of the Underdwellers, who had a strange British accent for some reason.
Lasers.
And the laser eyes, yeah.
We have to keep USA. They're calling Judy USA because USA was under her marble.
But they also find that laser that has like endless power, like never runs out of juice.
Almost, yeah. And it's funny, for the cartoon, the gorillas are all carrying rifles and guns. None of them ever shoot anything. And that was because, and it makes sense, that they did not want to show the characters using a weapon that a child could possibly get a hold of.
Right.
So that's why the only weapons you see fired are the laser and the howitzer. You never see a gorilla.
Well, see, the problem too back then was that was the times when the PTA started taking over.
Yeah.
And cutting violence out of cartoons. And, that's where, they were even complaining about, Yosemite Sam shooting at Bugs Bunny or whatever. It's like, there were definitely guns and things going on in cartoons back like late 60s, maybe early 70s.
Oh, yeah.
But by the time we got to the mid 70s, then violence and guns and all that were basically banned from cartoons.
Yeah. True. Except for howitzers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Most kids don't have access to howitzers.
And laser eyes.
Laser eyes.
Yeah, laser eyes. That's right.
Even Godzilla had laser eyes in that Hanna-Barbera TV show.
True.
What's interesting, I know I've plugged this book on here before, Tales from the Forbidden Zone, which is a collection of short stories about Planet of the Apes. I think there's maybe 3 stories in there that feature the live action characters, and there's one story that features the animated characters, but it also incorporates characters from all the different movies and TV.
Just to make things even more confusing.
Even more confusing,
Right.
yeah. It's sort of like a multiverse story.
Yeah, I thought I read that there were like 3 stories based on the cartoon out there somewhere, and I think
there may be.
I think they were combined in one of the comic books or something. But
yeah, it may be the comic books and stuff. But
Interesting.
now I'm anxious to go back and kind of reread those stories since I've watched the shows again.
Yeah.
Well,
I'd also heard that the NBC was interested in doing a wrap up of the animated series, and it just never happened.
Didn't happen.
The live action never got a wrap up either, but in late 70s, early 80s, episodes of the live action series were edited together into movies. Life, Liberty, and Pursuit on Planet of the Apes, Treachery on the Planet of the Apes, da-da-da-da-da. And Roddy McDowall did these raps for it. I believe you can find them on YouTube. He did these raps for it as an older Galen, talking about basically, you know, they eventually found a ship and left the planet, and somehow, but it's Galen talking about his experiences with them and how difficult it was and things like that. It's very good. It's very fun, and it ends on a nicely ominous Planet of the Apes note. I think there are 4 or 5 segments in it, and the quality is pretty bad, but they're really fun to see. He's in this museum or something, and he's got all of these human artifacts around him, and he's kind of playing with them and doing things with them. It's very fun. If you look it up on YouTube,
I mean, at the end of the cartoon, you really have to kind of project, because they had gotten the book, and Zara and Cornelius were supposed to present it to the board or whatever, and try to get humans equal rights, and so there's all these things that were set up that were going to happen, but it just kind of ended on an open note.
Well, but it wouldn't have, though, right? Because Zaius was dead. Zaius knew about the humans and the fact that they had destroyed civilization before.
But he's keeping it from everyone. So suddenly they have this book that they're presenting as evidence to everybody that this is how it was.
Yeah.
But I would think it would make the apes even more paranoid and want to more squash the humanoids.
In true apes, nothing with Planet of the Apes has a happy ending. Nothing. None of the films, nothing for Planet of the Apes has a happy ending. So,
which is why it's such a great children's show. but getting back to that Galen wraparound, I do remember seeing those years ago, and I did seek it out while we were reviewing all this stuff, and I saw a couple of those, and it is pretty charming, actually, to watch him doing an older Galen reminiscing, oh, I remember the time that we did blah blah blah, and he's got like the white streak in his hair and everything. But it's funny to me that I had read that he said that Galen was his favorite of the 3. Maybe it was just at the time that he was doing it that he made that statement, or maybe it's like a recency bias maybe or something, but I wouldn't think that would have been his favorite, but who knows?
Maybe the work schedule was better than the films. He didn't have to work so many hours, and other people could play him when he got tired, or I don't know.
And Galen was a lighter character. He was younger.
That's true.
Whereas Cornelius was a serious scientist, a serious archaeologist, and Caesar was a revolutionary.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. Yeah. He did get to portray different personalities with those characters.
Yeah.
Very true.
So while when the seam between the makeup and the hair would split, I'd get a little extra air in there.
Yeah, probably.
Made it easier.
Yeah. I mean, in so many of those, you can see the shine in the netting underneath the hair. It's like, oh man.
Well, I think the only proper way to end the TV series was to feed Zaius and the book to the shark. That would have
Well, anyway. They could have had a big shark versus gorilla fight.
There you go.
Or have the sharks band
Like
together.
Full
and
Sheet
take
Zombies, where you have the zombie and the shark fight it out.
There you go.
Have Galen jet ski or over the shark.
The shark.
Or they just end
Fonzie.
with them and Galen in a pool, and they're teaching him how to swim.
Right.
Yeah. Well, my friends, this was a lively discussion.
Yes.
Lots of fun. Any last minute thoughts on either the animated Planet of the Apes or live action?
Rewatching the live action series, I became really impressed with the music. Lalo Schifrin did a great job, and he does a lot of callbacks to the original soundtrack. So he continues that musical feel throughout the series. That really impressed me. I really enjoyed that.
Do you know what other two themes he did?
Oh, I'm sure I do, but I can't think of them right now.
He did Mannix.
Uh-huh.
He also did the theme for Enter the Dragon.
Oh, okay.
He was all over TV in the 70s.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of shows in the 70s he did that I'm not thinking about, but
yeah, I would definitely, if I could get that TV soundtrack for Planet of the Apes, I would.
Well, actually, Return of the Planet of the Apes had an interesting soundtrack too.
It did.
A lot of sort of theremin stuff and and things. And it's like I'm surprised they didn't. I did find a set of Japanese CDs that had music from all the films. But yeah, I never saw one for the TV show or for the cartoon.
Funny he did Mannix, though. I never would have thought.
So Entrada, if you're listening.
La La Land, help.
La La Land Records, if you're listening.
Okay, kids, let us go into our censor sweep. Lord Blood-Rah is our guest. Why don't you share with our listeners where they can find you and what all is going on in and around Blood-Rah Manor?
Just all the usual. You can check out what I'm doing at lordbloodrah.com. Through that, you can get access to my YouTube channel, where I drop weekly episodes every Friday of the Nerve Rackin' Theater. My podcast, Lord Blood-Rah's Nerve Rackin' Auditorium, in which I host old-time radio shows, horror radio shows. Catch that on Saturdays. Captain Paxar's Star Cadet Hour, where I host old-time 50s sci-fi TV series, and lately a lot of movie serials. Right now I'm in the middle of one called The Fighting Devil Dogs, which is very bizarre. They fight this villain called the Lightning, which, according to the trivia, I don't know if it's true, the design of the Lightning, this black helmet and all black suit, was an inspiration for the look of Darth Vader. Possibly. So you can check all that out at lordbloodrah.com.
Excellent.
Right.
That's right. Bob, you have anything to share with our viewers, listeners?
Well, as I mentioned last time, tickets for Godzilla Fest are up and available. We have our guest Tomoko Ai, who was Katsura in Terror of Mechagodzilla. We've got Hurricane Ryu, who played King Ghidorah in 1991. He played Baby Godzilla in Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. He played Little Godzilla in Godzilla vs. Destroyer. He played Batra, the larval form, in Godzilla vs. Mothra. Also, he was a storyboard artist for Toho, so he'll also be selling his art. And we have TJ Storm, who was Godzilla, the mocap actor for Godzilla and Godzilla 2014 and Godzilla King of the Monsters. And his latest role was the Red Hulk in Captain America Brave New World.
Oh, is that right? I met him, right? At one of your Godzilla fests, I believe.
He was at the one with Michael Dougherty.
Yeah, he was cool.
And he came back the year after. But yeah, he's great. He treats all the fans like they're his best friends.
Yeah, he seemed to be really great.
Really good with kids and things. So, yeah, that's all coming up. We've got the film festival at the Balboa Theater in July. And then we've got the full-blown convention, which will be at the Holiday Inn Golden Gateway in San Francisco on September 19th, 20th, 21st.
Oh.
So go to our all new, brand new, beautiful GodzillaFest.com website, and everything's there. We just launched that about a week and a half ago, and Cheryl Lancaster put in a ton of work on that thing.
Oh, nice.
Shout out, Cheryl.
Excellent. Yes, indeed.
Okay,
I
so-
clicked the little Godzillas, Bob, and I
Oh,
heard the
well,
roar.
at the very top of the website, it says Godzilla Fest, and it has two silhouettes, one on each side of Godzilla. And if you're at work and you don't want anyone to know you're goofing off, then ignore this. But you're at home and you want to click on either one, click on one, and it's Godzilla's roar comes out. Click on the other one, and a different Godzilla roar comes out.
That's cool.
So,
That is cool.
that's just
Very
a little,
nice.
a little bit of fun to have on the website. But other than that, I went to Las Vegas last week, and it was a boring work trade show, but I was able to sneak away and go to the Golden Tiki one night. So that was really cool. I thought one thing that was interesting was above the bar, they have this tiki mask, and on each side of the tiki mask are hula dancers, but they're hula dancers from It's a Small World, like the Hawaiian kids that are in that.
Sure.
They have those up there. And then in the back room, there's a kind of a pirate theme, and they have a full-size pirate, which if you look at it, the style, they definitely somehow got it out of Pirates of the Caribbean. But it was pretty cool. And then on the last night I was there, I was able to sneak out and go to the Atomic Museum.
For those of you on YouTube, Bob is sporting the shirt.
If I move my General Urko pendant, it's Atomic Museum. Basically, it's all about the birth of the atomic bomb, Oppenheimer, the whole thing, the testing that was done out of the Nevada desert. And they've got, and one cool thing, which has nothing to do with any of that, is Robbie the Robot's right there in the lobby. So
nice.
You walk in there and he's speaking lines from Forbidden Planet and all that. But no, it's a very cool, kind of short trip through the museum, but it's a really cool museum. And yeah, I think I get lazy, but they said it could take up to 2 hours if you sit there and read all the notes and watch all the little videos and all the displays and all that kind of stuff. But I just like to go in and take in all, look at the big bomb. So
did you make it over to the KISS Museum?
What's that?
Did you make it over to the KISS Museum?
No, I did not.
That's fine.
I had been to the KISS miniature golf before, but
yeah. Well, it's right there. The KISS Museum is around it. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Next time.
That was it. I just had little bits of time and I just kind of snuck out to do. I'd always wanted to go to the Atomic Museum, so I definitely checked that out. And then the guy I was staying with, he was like, Monday night, what do you want to do? I'm like, oh, let's go to the Golden Tiki. So that's how we ended up over there.
Nice.
But
excellent. Walker, what you got for us, buddy?
I drove to Vegas.
Oh.
As you drive out to Vegas, what used to be a little shack on the side of the road and now is a big tourist trap is Alien beef jerky.
Oh,
great beef jerky. You used to go in this little shack, they'd have all this beef jerky and you could buy like a shirt or something. Now you go in, they have all this beef jerky, but you can buy shirts and pins and buttons and cups and glasses and whatever. So big tourist trap now, but definitely worth a stop. It's just it's in Baker, just before you get to like the airline graveyard, which is where they park all the dead airliners, 747s, 727s, whatever. They're all on a big lineup out there in the desert. So cool things to do if you drive out to Las Vegas.
All right. Walker.
Okay.
What do you got?
What have I got going? I think I mentioned this last time, so I maybe foolishly started a booktube channel on YouTube. So at this point in time, when this airs, let's see, this will be the 22nd? I should probably have 4 videos up at that point in time. The newest one will probably be on Ursula K. Le Guin's The Lathe of Heaven, which I finished reading just recently. and I'll have a few others up. So if you're interested in hearing me ramble on about books, God only knows why, you can go to YouTube and look for Echoes from the Satellite, which is the name of my channel, and that's where I'll be doing my literary shtick. So
Aaron
that's
Walker's nerve-wracking book tour.
nerve-wracking book tour. Exactly. Why? Why are you going to talk about this? I don't know. I don't have enough to do, I guess. So that's what's happening there. What are you up to, Larry?
I finally found this bad boy at a decent price. Bob had shared this almost a year ago.
It's the Godzilla Tower.
Godzilla Tower from X Plus.
From Godzilla versus Gigan.
Yep.
And what is he doing there, Larry?
It's just a building and they built it in the shape of Godzilla with a little like weather balloon thing on the side.
Okay.
So you can see they got the little door if you're on YouTube and you walk up the stairs. And I wish they had a live version of this. But
if you go to Middle of Beyond, they have a throw rug of that.
They do. They do.
Cool.
That's,
okay.
on the list.
By the way, when does this episode come out?
22nd.
Ah, okay.
22nd of April.
Okay, because I was going to say we've all been nominated for Rondos.
Yes,
we have.
Planet 8 for podcast. I'm nominated again for favorite horror host. So
congratulations.
By the time this comes out, you will have won and I will have lost again.
So by the time this comes out, we'll all be losers.
Most likely. But
we always used to lose. We'd always lose to Gilbert Gottfried's podcast.
Oh,
yeah. The celebrity podcasts kind of.
Hey, kids, we're losers without the Rondo. So
you know what? It's an honor to be nominated.
It's an honor to be nominated. I didn't even bother publicizing the fact that I was nominated again because Svengoolie's going to win again. He's won over the last 5. I don't begrudge him that. He's the king of horror hosts. He deserves every bit of it, but I didn't even bother saying I've been nominated again.
I thought I'd heard a while back that he was going to, out of the kindness of his heart, pull out of the competition.
What I heard.
Let somebody else have a chance.
And you know what? I would bet that it's MeTV that's saying no, don't pull out.
Yeah.
I would bet that's MeTV because I had a bit where the whole Berwyn thing with Svengoolie. And I chatted with him, so I contacted him and I said, hey, could you possibly film like a 10-second bit that I could use on my show? And he said, that sounds like fun. Let me get back to you. And he did. And he said, I'm sorry, MeTV will not let me do that kind of thing.
Wow.
Okay, no problem. Don't worry about it.
Wow. Well, all I know is Gilbert's been dead for a number of years and he's still winning. So
I feel like they need to have like maybe multiple categories. It's like
expensive podcast versus cheap podcast.
Something like that. Are you making a lot of money? Are you not making any money? I don't know.
Yeah.
Just something. But you know what? It's okay. We're just having fun.
Exactly.
Yeah, yes, indeed. My friends, this brings us to the close of another episode. Listeners and viewers, thank you once again for tuning in. Please like, share, and subscribe to everyone's URL and social media accounts. And we appreciate you guys being with us. And hey, in the comments, if you want to share some tidbits or some information on the shows, either animated or live action, or you have some memories you'd like to post, feel free. We love answering. You guys take care, stay safe. Again, thank you, Lord Blood-Rah, for being with us. This is Planet 8 signing off. Live long and prosper.
On that note, this will conclude this transmission from Planet 8. We would like to thank all of our intergalactic audience for listening. Be sure to head on over to our website at www.planet8podcast.com, where you can get more information on this episode's topic.
For more conversation, find us on Twitter at Planet8Cast.
Or on Facebook at facebook.com/Planet8Podcast.
We want to thank you guys for tuning in each and every episode. We look forward to your input and opinions. Until next time, this is Planet 8 signing off. End transmission.
By George, he's got it. It is the end.